Okay, in the Impact video, which I'm very sorry that did not come out on Thursday, and we were kind of busy that night, and all these days are kind of running together, so I don't remember what day I did it. There was a cryptic comment for this very video, and the comment was Molly. And no, it has nothing to do with our newest podcaster and her Molly's Corner segment, which is coming next week. Oh no, it actually has to do with this Versus, which is Molly Ringwald, who starred in both Pretty in Pink and The Breakfast Club. And that's where we go to right now. So AJ, take it away.
Alright. I'd like to start off immediately by saying that this feels so fucking ridiculous. That this is not based on... size does not matter in this particular competition.
Correct.
Because as you can... Jesus Christ, this feels so fucking dumb! What happened was, we were like 20 minutes into this video, and it cut off.
Yep.
So I'm just repeating myself from like 20 minutes ago.
Yes.
So please bear with me. This feels fucking dumb. Okay.
Take two, and action!
Okay. You'll see that my copy of Pretty in Pink is in one of these ridiculous skinny cases that you can usually get for like $1, and it's some random movie starring a popular actor in a movie that he was in for like 30 seconds, but they plastered their face on the cover.
Yes.
Well, the reason it's like this is because this came in a John Hughes box that I got that had this Ferris Bueller and Some Kind of Wonderful.
Okay, that's a very interesting three to put together.
And it's a box like that big, so they're in these skinny cases. Now, even though a John Hughes box set would make more sense for it to be like these two and 16 Candles, but that isn't the case.
Nope.
So, yeah. And I chose obviously the three definitive. John Hughes was like,
King of the 80s.
Yeah, like the face of the 80s.
Yes.
And embodied it in these movies that he made. The main three being 16 Candles in 84, The Breakfast Club in 85, and Pretty Big in 86. But I chose these two as the definitive two of the three. That's not to demean 16 Candles or anything. Or, my friend Paul Dooley.
Yes.
That I met last spring. And I mentioned 16 Candles to him as he signed my... DVD of Insomnia, and he said for a while, because of 16 Candles, he was typecast as dads for like most of his career. But he didn't seem bitter or anything. It was just an anecdote.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I think I'd say these two are the ones that people really put on the pedestal.
Definitely. And literally they are on pedestals right now, technically.
So I'm going to go ahead and decide which one is the definitive one. So, we'll start... I'm just going to, obviously, Molly Ringwald is the star of Pretty in Pink. Above all.
Mm.
I wouldn't necessarily call her the star of The Breakfast Club, because all five of them have, like, equal screen time.
Yeah. It's a true ensemble film.
It might even weigh more in Judd Nelson's direction.
I would say so.
But, she's basically the poster child for these movies, basically.
Yes.
So, to make things easier, I'll just say, yeah. So we'll start the first category being, some of these categories can get kind of difficult.
Yeah.
Because they're weird, because even though movies seem like they may be really similar, it's kind of hard to come up with 6 categories that they have in common and to compare.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just bear with me. The first category is the better Molly Ringwald performance between the two. Like I said, it's pretty one-sided, especially because even though The Breakfast Club has a lot of really heavy moments of drama, it's mostly a comedy.
True.
More so than Pretty in Pink. But there's a couple of scenes in The Breakfast Club. I just called it Breakfast at Tiffany's for some reason.
Interesting.
There's a couple of scenes in The Breakfast Club, particularly, she's mainly there to be, the voice of reason and, trying to get everybody to not be troublemakers and not, fight or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like the scene spoofed in another teen movie when she mouths stop.
Yeah.
There's a scene where Judd Nelson's making fun of Anthony Michael Hall for possibly being a virgin because he's motioning to her when he's saying it. Because he starts to make it sound like Brian is implying that he did it with Claire, but he just means he doesn't want Claire to know that he's a virgin. And then he starts to interrogate Claire about being a virgin, and she kind of gets defensive and goes around it. But then there's that big dramatic scene that's like the entire ending is like the last half hour. They're sitting in this circle, pouring out their personal lives, and he's confronting her again about her preppy style and her rich style and all that, and she's starting to lose her cool a little bit and starting to let her emotional barrier down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And her only line more or less is "shut up," but she has to keep delivering it over and over again and getting like more frustrated, and there's all kinds of emotions she's got going on. It's like anger and frustration and sadness and all that because she feels like he's right too. That's another reason she's getting all defensive. However, like I said, Pretty in Pink kind of has an unfair advantage because she has a lot more to do with the movie being focused on her character completely, almost. Like she does the I won't go into it too much because it's its own category later, but the big dramatic scene she has with Harry Dean Stanton. But then there's the scene where she confronts Andrew McCarthy at his locker after he backs out on going to prom with her, and she finally just blows her top about the whole him backing out on her just because his friends don't like her and think she's trash and stuff like that. And the movie's PG-13, so when she throws an F-bomb in his face, it kind of catches you off guard.
Yeah.
When she calls him a filthy fucking no good liar, and then she makes him do the one tear. And then there's the scenes where she has to deal with, she has to deal with, she cares about Ducky a lot, but she also has to be annoyed by him and frustrated by him, and she manages to balance that pretty well, believably. And then there's, the only problem that I have is, this is a total perspective thing. So,
okay.
Whatever. But, it's kind of, you have Ducky who's in love with her, and you have Blaine who's also in love with her. But I don't know if it's maybe not her, but the character. I've never quite been able to grasp what it is about her that these two guys are so insane about. But like I said, loving somebody is like a total perspective thing. So
yes,
somewhat like some plain Jane whatever thing could be like the absolute object of affection of somebody, and she's just plain Jane to you. So
yep, beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah. So having said all that, like I said, even though Pretty in Pink has the upper hand because she's not as much of a supporting character, or at all anyway. Pretty in Pink would get this point.
Okay.
That brings the second category to the supporting characters, which, like I said, just to make this easy, we're just going to say a supporting character is anybody that's not Molly Ringwald. just to cover all bases. We can start with Pretty in Pink. So there's Ducky, there's Blaine, there's Annie Potts.
Iona.
Yeah, that's it. Her dad, Harry Dean Stanton. Steph, who is James Spader. Then you have, there's the girl that's always giving her shit in school.
Benny?
Yes. And her silent friend is played by Gina Gershon for some reason.
Trombley. She has a name.
And then she's not really a supporting character, I'm just mentioning it because she's somebody known. Christy Swanson is the girl that, we're assuming Ducky goes after at the end.
She's listed as Duckette.
Of course.
And Dweezil Zappa's also in it as well.
Who's that?
Simon?
So these characters, I don't know who that is.
Yep, there goes my hat.
Okay, let's go in reverse. Well, not total reverse. Like, let's start with Harry Dean Stanton. There's this Harry Dean Stanton is the heart of this movie.
Definitely.
There's this really great scene where he and Ducky are sitting outside just talking, and Ducky's kind of basically confessing his love to Andy, to him.
Mm.
And he's basically talking about apparently Ducky never knew about, didn't know details about Andy's mom or anything. So yeah. I keep hesitating when I say Andy, because I'm trying to, it's Pretty in Pink is Andy, breakfast, god damn it, I did it again.
The Breakfast Club.
The Breakfast Club is Claire. Okay.
Breakfast at Tiffany's is not involved in verses today.
The movie's getting to be more different, though.
No lie.
Okay, but yeah. And then there's there's so many scenes. Every scene that he's in has, like, this great heart in it. Even the opening scene where she has to... We learned their relationship really quickly. She has to... Since Andy's mom left him, he's laid in bed, unemployed, and just can't do anything. And she has to wake him up and make him breakfast and make him move to get him to do anything. And like when he's talking to Ducky, he talks about he has an appointment with a vacuum cleaner, or has a date with a vacuum cleaner, one of those things. And it's like this, whenever he has to do something, it's like a really big deal to him, even if it's a minuscule thing like vacuuming. And of course, this fairly popular scene where Andy has to explain to him how she feels about Blaine, and that she's probably falling in love. And it's that really sad moment when she gets up to leave and he stops her and he says, I'm sorry that it's me you have to have these conversations with. That's deep shit. But then, of course, she says, her mom could have never said it as good as he did.
Yeah.
Then you have Spader. He's like the instigator of all the drama.
Okay.
He just stands on the sidelines and, well, at the very beginning, Andy's going into school and he's like waiting on her. It's kind of creepy. And then he goes and he runs up to her and he actually, obviously he's like really, really rich.
Yeah.
So he can pretty much get any girl he wants. And it drives him insane that Andy's the only girl he hasn't been able to lure in. So he basically watches from the sidelines and tries to make everybody else miserable. Because he's banging Benny on a regular basis, but he doesn't really care. And yeah, he's just he's the villain of the movie, obviously. He always, and he's basically playing the same character he played in Less Than Zero and the Rachel Papers. There's a really fun, Molly Ringwald did Red at AMA.
Okay.
And they asked her, I don't know why she said this, but it was just funny. They asked the big question. You get the chance to ask Molly Ringwald a question. And of course, this is the question you want to ask. Team Ducky or Team Blaine? Molly Ringwald's response? Team James Spader. She could not have answered that better.
Very nice.
Next, there's Annie Potts. Annie Potts is really, really good, too. She's like, I think she says 15 years older than Andy, but she's like her best friend. Oh, she is her best friend.
She manages the Trax record store.
And she's like they're each other's shoulder to cry on, and she's like lost in trying to be youthful. She does more or less, she craves Benjamin Button syndrome. She says the line, why can't we start old and grow younger? And then there's she's also where she gets her prom. She has it's her old prom dress, and then it's what Harry Dean Stanton bought her, and she makes the dress out of both of them. So, yeah, she's a really good character, too. This was actually after Ghostbusters, but she actually looks younger.
Interesting.
Every time I watch the movie, I keep forgetting her character's supposed to be a lot older, because I always assume, for a while there, I kind of thought they were just in the same area. And of course, Blaine. The very interesting thing about Blaine, and this is, Blaine's character is what makes Pretty in Pink special compared to other romance movies. Almost every romance movie known to man is the same thing. You have the nice guy who is desperately in love with her and would just die if he isn't going to be with her.
Yeah.
And then you have the asshole that she wants to be with.
Of course, that's how it works in real life, too.
And she just, we don't know why, but she just does it like to punish herself.
Mm-hmm.
But the twist that Pretty in Pink does is, Blaine is like just as nice as Ducky. Which puts a huge complication on things. Because, there's one moment where he's a little douchey, but I think it's the nerves, because it's when he and Andy go on their first date, and there's a faux pas there, because obviously she doesn't have the rich clothes or anything, but she's dressed, the way she dresses, and they're leaving, and he says, before we go out, do you want to go home and get dressed? And she just kind of looks at the ground and says, I already did. And then shortly after that, they're talking about, whether to hang out with his friends or her friends. And then he makes a crack about her friends, being under a rock and stuff like that. And it's like, well, that's a little douchey, but I think it's just, he just doesn't know what else to say. So, and it is a little hard to side with him when he starts blowing her off, because he's afraid of what James Spader will say. Because we're all worried about what James Spader will say.
Exactly. To this day, we're worried about what James Spader would say.
I have a wristband. It's not letters. It's the whole sentence. What would James Spader say? But he really is in love with her, and he just doesn't know what to do. So he's succumbing to peer pressure is what he's doing. One might argue Ducky would not succumb to peer pressure. He'd love her no matter what. But Blaine's still a good guy, I guess, if you want to go there. Sorry, us Duckies are a little peeved at the Blaines of the world, whether they're nice or not. And
no lie.
It's a horrible situation, because Blaine's a really nice guy. I would not be the one to say, I'm never going to take you to another prom again if you don't go get him. But, it's a nice ending. She should have been with Blaine, Because Ducky, let's talk about Ducky now, because Ducky's not exactly an innocent. Okay. Most men of the world have been a Ducky at one point in their life. Surely, every guy, I would think, unless you're absolutely
heartless,
have the best luck in the world, too.
Yeah.
But I can see where his character in particular. I can see where Andy would be annoyed with him, because there are times where he's really obnoxious. But most guys, having been in a Ducky situation, we know it's not so much that he's obnoxious; it's that he tries so much and doesn't know what else he can do, and he's just grabbing at whatever he can.
You gotta do anything you can to try to get what you want.
So, just like when she's trying to talk to Annie Potts about Blaine, and he keeps pulling the fucking fire alarm. But then when she does go out with Blaine, he doesn't. We don't know how many. Maybe I would guess not many at all, but the way Ducky talks when he says the line, "If you want to go out and get your heart splattered all over hell, then maybe I won't be here this time." For the first time in your life, I won't be there, is what he says. It makes you wonder how many Blaines there have been, especially if she doesn't get that much attention because she's poor. But apparently, the way Ducky talks. Apparently, it's happened multiple times.
It usually does.
Because at the prom, he even says he's not like the others. I don't know if that means the other rich. I assumed it meant the other rich people, but apparently it could also mean maybe
anybody else.
Maybe there's been more Blaines in Andy's life or something. They don't go into it.
No.
So unless I missed it, but I don't think so.
I don't believe so as well.
But then again, Ducky doesn't always take the high road.
True.
When she goes out with Blaine and he's in the bar, the Dice Man finally lets him in.
Yes.
Because he's with Annie Potts. and he's hanging out with her, and he does like the silent treatment, and then he's like a total dick to Blaine, and he makes an idiot out of. I can understand making an idiot out of yourself if you're very, very upset about the situation, but you know, even if somebody you love is just, you've had it up to here with what they do, you don't be a dick to them. I mean, yeah, okay, it happens.
Yeah.
Of course it happens, but
it does.
This is very uncomfortable.
Yeah, it really is. Because I completely forgot about how personal Pretty in Pink really is.
But yeah, but you know, Ducky may be obnoxious sometimes, and he may, you know, be a dick.
But he means well.
Yeah, it's just because it's like what Annie Potts tells her, you know, go easy on him because he's nursing some fairly serious wounds. And that's all it is. But, you know, I really love what the movie did as far as making Blaine a likable character, because it brings in a real conflict and makes it, you actually don't, if you haven't seen the movie, which...
If you're watching this video, why have you not
seen the movie? Back in 1986, when you hadn't seen this movie yet, you don't really know where she's going to go.
Well, that's funny you mentioned that, because I don't know if you're going to bring it up later in the review, but apparently, originally, the movie did end with them getting together.
They give you that vibe because when he blows her off for the prom, and she comes in and she's thinking about whether or not she should go in, and she's about to leave, and she sees Ducky at the top of the steps. That's almost like a, oh my god, they're going to get together moment. Yeah.
Well, test audiences disapproved, so they shot the Blaine stuff instead.
Fuck you, audiences.
Yeah, no lie. No,
Blaine is I can't express. Blaine is a nice guy, okay? It was a win-win situation for her. We'll say that. Maybe not always in real life, but in the particular movie.
There we go, thank you.
Okay.
We're just having this heated dialogue, off camera.
22 minutes in already. Okay, that took a long time.
Well, the iPod just died, so we have no,
I got the Breakfast Club's easy, because it's just them and Paul Gleason. And the janitor.
Alright, good times. Let's do this.
So, okay. Apart from Claire, you have Andrew, who's Emilio Estevez, the jock. You have Brian, who is the brain, who is Anthony Michael Hall. You have Bender, who is Judd Nelson. He is the criminal. And you have Ali Sheedy, whose name I can never remember, because her character is almost worthless.
I had it a second ago, and I just lost it.
We'll just call her Ali Sheedy.
Well, yeah, we'll go with Ali Sheedy. That'll work fine.
And, of course, Paul Gleason as Vernon. Yeah, this is hard to do, because the whole... Obviously, the supporting character is very appealing, because the supporting character is the whole movie. It's like Carnage syndrome. You don't know exactly who's leading, who's supporting, because...
I totally agree with that.
The whole cast is in the movie at the same time.
Yeah.
So, obviously the whole point of the movie is to have... Okay, this is what's interesting about what John Hughes did with The Breakfast Club. A lot of movies about teens, you have just your who's who, and that's who they are.
Yeah.
Your cardboard cutouts, as they say.
The jock, the scholar, just like in Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah. The whole point of the movie, The Breakfast Club, is that they are not cardboard cutouts.
No.
And to show you that they aren't cardboard cutouts. That's the whole point of the movie.
It says that on the DVD case, 5 strangers with nothing in common except each other.
That tagline never made sense to me, but I still like the movie, so let's ignore the tagline.
We're going with what you just said. That's the reason I brought it up.
So,
16 hours later, supporting characters.
They all have Pretty in Pink held us up like Heat did.
Yeah, no lie.
Okay, so you have, okay. Okay, I'm trying to figure out how to go about this, who to start with, or what to do at all about this. It's mainly unleashed at the end, but every now and then you get hints of characters might not be what they seem, or not totally like what they seem.
Okay.
For the longest, we'll start with Emilio Estevez, actually. He's first credited, let's start with him. he is the one that it takes a long time for his character to really show his real self. He's the one that like stays within himself for the majority of the movie. I guess apart from Ali Sheedy, because oh no, even after that, even after Ali Sheedy's real self comes out, and she starts talking, we don't really get a grip on Andrew until he confesses about why he's in detention. And it's a really well-delivered scene where he talks about taping the kid's ass. And only doing it because he thought his dad would want him to, or something like that. Like, his dad wants him to be an alpha male.
Yeah.
So he thought he would be proving something to his dad by bringing this other kid's weakness to light and overpowering him, using it to overpower him. And then after it's this really, really powerful scene where he talks about imagining that kid going home, having been humiliated, and having to explain to his dad. That phone is really loud.
I know it is. It's gonna ring again because I don't care about it. I don't answer this phone.
Call from out of area.
It's a good thing that wasn't like a number. That person would be like, "Oh my, holy shit, my number's online."
It's happened before, actually.
Call from out of area.
Yeah, nice and anonymous. Okay, it's this really powerful scene where he talks about what it must have been like for that kid to go home and have to tell his dad how he'd been humiliated.
Yeah.
And that's like when we really get into the heart of his character. He's the one we don't get as much into. Which is interesting because you can do a lot of things with what lurks beneath a jock's alpha male way of doing things.
His true psyche.
Yeah. Anthony Michael has a lot of things going on. Brian. He, a personal in-joke to you. His full name's Brian Johnson. He's another one of those ones that doesn't come out for a while. That is a good way to do it, though, where they seem to go by their stereotype for most of the movie, but then there's this scene that just kills me. Where he's, they start to, I can't remember who brings it up. It might be, it's Ali Sheedy, I think, that brings it up.
That's what I was thinking.
About, they've all bonded in this moment in detention for this one day, but are they going to treat each other like friends at school the following Monday? Like, if they see each other in the halls, are they going to say hi, or are they going to do what their friends would expect them to do?
Yep.
And she calls Molly Ringwald out and says, if you were to see Brian in the hallway Monday, would you acknowledge him? And Claire says no. And you see, because initially at the start of the scene, Brian thought everybody would say yes. Brian was the one that thought they were all going to be friends after this. And when Claire said no, you can see just how he changes. And you see, like, the guys in John Hughes movies mastered the one tear.
Indeed.
This was before Brian's total breakdown, when he was talking about, the scene doesn't play out as seriously as you expect it to. He talks about bringing a gun to school. And the scene gets a really dark tone in it. But then he says it was a flare gun that accidentally went off in his locker, and they all have a laugh about it.
Nice.
Then there's Judd Nelson. Everybody's favorite character. Does Barry Manilow know that you raid his wardrobe? I love the way Brian reworded that later, too. Oh, the first detention came from when he asked you if you were in Barry Manilow's closets. He does the badass thing. We all went to school with that kid that has a tough home life. And he's going to do everything he can to let you know how tough his home life is.
He's an Adora with personality.
Yeah.
Way before it even happened.
And, he wants to act hardcore. He talks about what his dad does to him. He talks about how his dad puts cigars out on his arm and all that. I know where you're going.
Yep, yeah, you do.
But then, the big scene, Bender doesn't really have a big scene. This is the great thing. And this is a note to Judd Nelson, too. The scene where we see Bender's true self, he has no dialogue. It is the scene where Vernon comes in and takes him out of the room and basically puts him in that little, I don't know if it's an office or a closet, but it's a really, really small room.
Got it.
And he shuts the door and he takes off his coat and he basically tells him, like, basically really straightens him out and basically says, you know, lets Bender know that he's gonna be nothing. And then he says, like, right now, I'm paraphrasing badly, but basically that they're in the school right now and Bender can basically say whatever he wants. But basically down the road, when they're not in school anymore, like when he's not there and Bender's not there, he's gonna kick Bender's ass.
Yeah.
And the look on Judd Nelson's face, Judd Nelson believes it. And it, like, really, really... Bender goes from this to this in this one scene. And it's an ode to Gleason's performance, too, because it's a really powerful scene, and you actually... Vernon comes off, like, actually scary, and not just the uptight, you know, detention teacher. So, that pretty much covers them. That kind of covered Vernon and Bender, that one scene.
Yeah.
Well, you know, there's also that scene where he, the janitor actually catches him going through the files and, like, blackmails him. And then they're talking about that dialogue they have. Brings out some more of Vernon's character about why he wasn't exactly with malicious intent when he became a teacher. And he talks about how, like, as the years go on, the kids get more and more arrogant, and the janitor corrects him, and he says, it's you that changes, it's the kids that stay the same.
Yeah.
So...
It's a tough decision.
I will give supporting cast to Pretty in Pink. But, yeah, because, you know, they just, I mean, well, here's the thing. The characters you can relate to in The Breakfast Club, you can really, really relate to when you're a teenager.
Yeah.
The characters in Pretty in Pink you can relate to your whole life.
Yes.
That's why.
Okay. We're in 0-2 now?
Yeah.
Okay. Just making sure I was correct.
The next one is another tough one. I'm going to do which one handles drama better as its own category in a minute. But right now, kind of like when we did action last week with The Matrix and Inception, I've singled out a tear-jerking scene in each movie. And that... those two, which has the better tear-jerking scene.
Okay.
That would be, I already went over the Breakfast Clubs already, so I can get through this pretty fast. So I just have to explain, the scene I'm choosing from Pretty in Pink is the scene where she confronts Harry Dean Stanton. And, the scene in the Breakfast Club would be the one where Brian finds out that nobody would acknowledge him in the hallways.
Okay.
As far as the scene in Pretty in Pink goes, it's just... It's an acting showcase for Hayden Stanton, to say the least, and her, too. He buys her the dress, and then she asks him where he got the money, and he just kind of shrugs it off, and he says... He said earlier that he finally got a job.
Yeah.
And you can just tell... She bought it, and she was happy she was talking to him. You can tell through the whole movie that he was lying. So she confronts him about... When he kind of shrugs off where he got the money, she can tell that he doesn't really have a job. And she starts to yell at him basically for, being a... She's a little more... I mean, she's screaming, but she's a little more... she's a little nicer than saying he's a useless piece of shit.
Yeah.
And then that goes into her talking about how her mom didn't just leave him, she left both of them, and how he needs to get over the fact that she's not coming back, and... He actually gets mad and grabs her and shakes her for a second, but then he immediately hugs her and starts to break down, and she says, why can't you just accept that she's gone and not coming back? And his answer is, because I love her.
Yeah.
And that's a hard scene.
Definitely.
And then, of course, once they get through that, the scene ends on a nice note. he says he's gonna go to bed because he's got stuff to do and she's got school, and he's kind of hinting it when he says he has stuff to do. He's gonna probably go for a jog.
Yeah.
That's a really, really tough scene, but I think loneliness is a big deal when you're a teenager in school. If you're the loner type.
Yeah.
And I don't think anything embodies the pain of loneliness more than when Brian is told that Claire would not acknowledge him in the hallways.
Yeah.
It seems something very simple, but it's something that hits really, really hard.
Definitely.
And both of these, like, I would say this is a draw, but just by the slightest edge, I think the Breakfast Club gets that. The reason, Harry Dean Stanton had some tears going too, but the thing that seals this category for the Breakfast Club is Anthony Michael Hall's one tear. The first, he breaks down later in the scene, but the one that starts it.
It all goes down to that one tear.
The next one, because I desperately needed another category, was
Throw it all out here on the table here.
No, it makes sense though.
Oh, it does.
The better musical moment.
Okay, right on.
That would be, I don't know what the song is. It's the scene in that scene in the Breakfast Club when everybody just starts dancing to that song.
Well, if I had my iPod right now, I'd tell you, but I don't.
Towards the end of the day.
Okay.
That versus Ducky lip syncing to Try a Little Tenderness.
Is it Walking on Sunshine?
No, not even close.
Oh, I've seen it done. I've seen that song on a montage of Breakfast Club before, so that's probably the reason I'm thinking that.
Well, here's the thing. I'm gonna get all philosophical and symbolic on you.
Let's have some fun. Yeah.
The real thing I think John Hughes was reaching for when he did the Try a Little Tenderness scene was, goes back to what I was talking about earlier. When you really love somebody and you don't feel like you're getting your point across, you will do anything you can for this person to just to do anything to get them to like you.
Yep.
And I think that's really embodied by what John Cryer is doing. Because, I mean, yeah, Dougie does a bunch of shit just to do it. Just because that's who he is. Like, there is the scene where he's in Andy's bedroom. And he's having an inner monologue about whether or not he should tell her that he loves her. And she's gone downstairs to get drinks. And he starts to sing to himself. And she can hear him through the vents. That is Ducky just being Ducky. I think Try a Little Tenderness was him crying out for Andy to like him.
Say anything. Say anything. That's his say anything moment.
So I think that sets the whole thing, like, I mean, yeah, it's an 80s movie. You want to put on music and have fun and have a dance number and all that, but I think there was actual meaning in the one in Pretty in Pink.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's what it was saying. I could be totally off. John Hughes could have just been saying, wouldn't it be fucking hilarious if he just danced around it?
I want to hear him say that, actually. Fly on the wall.
However, now I gotta say something here. People could disagree with me, sure, but this is the way I see it. The scene in the Breakfast Club, it's towards the end of the day. They've just had their big dramatic moment, and they have this big... It's one of the most memorable scenes in the movie, where they all just, dance around the library to this song. This embodies the 80s song. A lot of things are embodied in this verse.
Yes, they are.
Because I'm running out of words. My vocabulary is running out.
And my iPod is dead, so I can't help you with this.
But the problem I find with that dance sequence is, it's towards the end, it's after all the drama. I know it's a way to kind of lighten the mood after all the drama we've just been through. The problem is I thought it felt out of place. When I see this dancing scene, I think it looks like something that was supposed to be in the middle of the movie and got put in the wrong place.
I can see that.
And it doesn't. I mean, I know you can say it's kind of it's their way of like not only is it a way to kind of up the spirits after all the drama, but it's kind of a bonding thing, I guess. But I don't know. To me personally, the dancing in Breakfast Club feels like it's in the wrong place.
Okay.
Which kind of makes me say, Well, this is happening.
Well, this is happening.
Okay, so I'll give that point to Pretty in Pink, obviously. And the last two are, how far in are we?
That requires me to lean forward. Sorry.
Alright. This one's running a little long.
40.
Alright. The next two categories are which handles comedy better and which handles drama better. We'll start with which one handles comedy better. Which is another thing I touched on earlier, but I'll just elaborate a little bit. The thing about The Breakfast Club, The Breakfast Club is actually more of a comedy than anything. It's got those really big dramatic moments, but it's mostly funny.
Okay.
Pretty in Pink is widely considered a comedy, and it is funny. But the thing is most of the comedy mainly comes from John Breyer. And it actually, while being primarily a comedy, its main focus is actually romance when it's not drama. Like even if the romance isn't dramatic, when they're not being dramatic, they're focusing more on romance.
Yeah.
Like I said, plenty of the lines that John Cryer has, like when he's thrown into the girls' room and like the you guys have a candy machine in here with the yeah, that. And then there was the I don't know why, but it's just hilarious to me when he mispronounces touche in tracks. When Annie Potts, I can't remember what she says, but Annie Potts says something, and his response is, touche.
Almost want to steal that.
In real life, I have used, do I offend? all these lines are in the same place, too.
Yeah.
But then there is, The Breakfast Club is mostly a comedy, and it has some outright funny stuff, and it has some little things. Like, one particular thing that kills me, and I don't know why it's even there. We don't know what Vernon's doing in his office. We see him occasionally, like, eating lunch or just, muttering under his breath. At one particular moment, he has built this thing that is made out of styrofoam cups and pencils.
Yeah.
It's like he's just in there doing random shit to kill time.
Pretty much.
And like I said, there's all the Judd Nelson stuff is hard to say whether it's funny, because the Bender stuff is always verging on comedy and then going into extreme drama. You don't know which direction the next thing he's going to say is going to go in, which is very interesting. But yeah, I'd say the funniest character is probably Anthony Michael Hall. He's got most of the so there's the there's the ruckus scene. Everybody loves the word ruckus was made famous by this movie, basically.
Yep.
Could you describe the ruckus, sir? I think it's clear that The Breakfast Club is the funniest. However, let's go in now to which one handles drama better, which doesn't necessarily go to the movie that won the better tear-jerking scene. And I'll tell you this. The thing about it is, The Breakfast Club has a lot of drama. And this goes back to what I said already. I've repeated myself a lot in this one. Most of The Breakfast Club's drama comes from what it's like to be a teenager, and how hard that is. But like I said, what really makes Pretty in Pink benefit is it's got a lot of stuff you can take with you your whole life.
True.
Because The Breakfast Club covers, like, a hard home life and all that, and a teacher you don't get along with, and how you're viewed to other people. Which is really heavy stuff. I made it sound like nonchalant there, but it is heavy stuff.
Yeah.
However, Pretty in Pink deals with prejudice towards classes, abandonment, unrequited love, just this stuff that goes peer pressure, which is also a teenager thing, but it's more so. I think peer pressure is more in obviously, The Breakfast Club touches on peer pressure, like with the whole, they want to acknowledge each other in the hallways because of what their friends would think, but Pretty in Pink is really heavy on the peer pressure stuff.
True. Which
also goes into the prejudice of classes thing. So, as far as thematically, I would say drama is much more apparent and, like, well-handled in Pretty in Pink. I'm giving the point to Pretty in Pink, but this one's difficult because it's, like, they both have two totally different kinds of drama, more or less, even though they're kind of in the same place. But I think Pretty in Pink touches on a lot more issues, and like I said, it's longer lasting. Like, the problems in The Breakfast Club are bad, but you only have to put up with them for so long. Most of them. The one case would probably be worrying about your future.
Yeah.
Like when Vernon's line, he says, "Oh, you think you're so funny," and then you guys think he's hilarious, and he says, "Well, why don't you look at John Bender in 5 years and then tell me what's hilarious?" That's a cruel line, but
yeah, it is.
That's the popular belief is if you were to see the characters in The Breakfast Club nowadays, even after that morning, Vernon would have still been right about Bender, unfortunately, because that's just what happens. So, Pretty in Pink takes this all together, but Breakfast Club is obviously a classic in its own right, and I'm sure a lot of people would choose it over Pretty in Pink. But most people I know probably would.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just the thing. I choose Pretty in Pink personally. So for all the reasons I said, I just spent 50 fucking minutes telling you why. You better understand by now why I would choose one over the other. So that's it for this one.
Next week?
Next week is, once again, I'm breaking the illusion. Next week is about to be filmed right now.
Yeah!
As represented by me today. I won't point it out too much, but I will just say, that's that.